Welcome to Let's Talk About It. This is a special edition of Let's Talk About It, our segment, The Author's Lounge. I'm your host, Paulette Henson, and today my special guest author on the show is author Lorraine J. Now, Lorraine's going to talk about her book, Ballet and Jazz Dictionary. It's a dance dictionary. I'm super excited to welcome her on the show. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring on author Lorraine J. Lorraine, welcome to the show. How are
I am wonderful. Thank you for having
you?
me. Good morning,
Yes.
everyone.
Good morning. Good morning. So, today we're going to dive into your book. Tell us about your book and your writing journey. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, I have been a dancer all my life. I started dancing when I was 5 years old, and I kind of never quit. But I spent a lot of years doing all the genres: ballet, jazz, tap, acrobat, love acrobat, modern, and even contemporary. What happened over the years is that, of course, as time goes on, you get a little older, life happens. And so I
Yes.
danced for a long time. And now at around 25 years old, I decided that it was time to change my course of life because I wasn't dancing professionally. It was something I did in my youth, growing up. And so when I hit adulthood and got married, started a life, things like that, I put dance aside. And it
Mhm.
wasn't because I didn't love it anymore. It was just because it didn't fit into my lifestyle. But then I got an opportunity to bring it back into my lifestyle when I began teaching a group of young ladies for a dance ministry at the church that I was involved in um, quite a few years ago. And at that point, I had already gone back to college for it for a little bit. I decided in 2011 that I thought I wanted to make a career of being a dance instructor. I didn't necessarily like the program as much, so I did not stay more than 2 semesters, but I learned a lot from a different side of dance that I had not learned um, when I was growing up as a dancer. The main
Mhm.
thing for me was the terminology that goes along with the dance technique. When you're a
Yes.
dancer, you are taught to dance. You're taught the choreography physically, and you are running your body through all these different movements. And yes, you're being taught that this is a pirouette, this is a pas de bourrée. Those things are being told to you as you're moving through. You're
Right.
being taught the choreography. You're being taught the technique, and
Yes.
each individual move is a technique and it has a name.
Yes.
However, when you become a little more advanced, classes begin to move a little faster. When they move a little
Yes.
faster, you're expected to be able to just
No.
pick it up and understand
Yes.
and know what it is. So here I was, at this point when I decided to go to college for dance. I was 40 years old, and I
Wow.
went into a dance class with children that I could have been their mothers. To be
Mhm.
quite honest, you're talking
Right.
about 18, 19-year-old children,
Right.
young adults who were trying to make dance a career from a teaching standpoint. It was at the time it was kind of a program I didn't understand. It was one for you to get your teaching license to be able to go into the schools and teach dance. I
Right.
didn't want to do that. I wanted to just learn to teach dance and get my degree in dance as a dance instructor. But
Yes.
and I didn't want to be in the classrooms, well, in the building, in school building, doing that. That was the
Mhm.
main reason why I dropped the course. However, the experience I got in that course reminded me that, oh my goodness, dance is so much more than just the physical movement of the body. Um,
Yes.
and I say that because in the college courses, I had to learn the terminology. I had to learn how to spell the terminology. I had to learn how to pronounce the terminology. We had a written test on it. And I
Wow.
will say the first couple of weeks when I was in those classes, I felt like a new student in a sense because there was some terminology that I either was not familiar with, or if I was
Mm.
familiar with it physically, I didn't know what the instructor would have been was talking about when she would say
Right.
it. But then when
Wow.
she would do it, I'm like, oh, I know what that is. I've been doing that all this. That's what that's called. You know what I mean? And so there were some things that in your community dance studios, those
Yes.
dance instructors are wonderful. They have a heart. If it is a dance studio that has a heart to teach the child how to dance, how to learn how
Yes.
to dance, not competition. This is my personal soapbox. I'm not a competition dancer. I personally feel like it takes away from the art of dance. There is an art to
Mm.
dance that comes from the
Yes.
heart.
Yes.
And when you move into a competitive version of that, you tend to lose that. But even growing up with that dance instructor that loves to teach the art of dance, they
Mhm.
teach you the terminology as you're doing it, but you
Yes.
never really understand how to spell it. You don't understand how to and take it internal. You don't know how to internalize it from
Right.
a written form. And to be quite
Yes.
honest, I've realized from that college course that, wow, this makes so much more sense to have it
Yes.
written down. Um,
Yes.
and then to do that, to see it, especially in ballet, a lot of words, a lot of terminology in ballet, there's that you would not even believe is spelled the way it's spelled or pronounced the
Yes.
way it's pronounced. There's a lot of accents over the words because you have the
Mhm.
French ballet, you have Cecchetti ballet, you have different versions of ballet, and each version of ballet has its own style to its terminology, and it could be written differently or spelled differently, and a lot of times mean the same thing. But that was huge for me. And then even learning with jazz and modern, there's movements that come with um, extensive wording. And I found
Yes.
out that when I sat in class those first couple of weeks or so, and was the adult in the back of the class, I would always go to the back of the room, and I knew I could dance. I can dance. I will say that. That was one thing that I was gifted with in the sense of I was the younger one in the advanced classes because my older
Yes.
sister danced and I followed behind her. She actually had her own dance studio for quite a while in Springfield, Massachusetts. And
Wow.
so I come from a family of
Dancers.
performers. My mother had a group when we were growing up called Ultimate Talent, and we danced, we modeled, we did all of those different talents throughout our community. It was huge for a long time.
Wow.
So I came from a family of performers. I modeled as well. My younger sister still models today. So it's just something we always have loved to do.
Uh-huh.
And when you do it from the love of it, it's
Yes.
sometimes you don't learn everything you need to learn if you're trying to make a career out of it. And so for me, I realized that when I sat in the back of that classroom at 40 years old and the teacher was just moving through some stuff, and I was like, what? Wait, what is
Mhm.
that? And so I was
Right.
like, thinking that I had never danced before. I thought to myself, I learned so much growing up. I learned a lot of terminology, a lot of technique, and I knew that what my dance instructors taught me was solid and concrete because I actually started out with at the Frank Hatcher Dance Studio. Anyone that's listening to this that is a dancer that knows professional dance, if they love jazz, they should know who Frank Hatchett is. He is from New York, and he
Yes.
was a choreographer, very well sought out black male choreographer who created a jazz style called VOP. And
Mm.
that jazz style, that was my heart. And that's what we grew up learning, VOP version
Wow.
of jazz, but it was still
Mhm.
jazz. And acrobat, I mean, excuse me, Afro as well, African dance. That was his
Yes.
thing. So as a young girl, I grew up doing that for many years. And then of course I had to learn ballet. I had to learn tap. In order to move into those more advanced classes, you had to do everything. Um,
Right.
but then again, like I said, when I got to be an adult and tried to dance again, I just was lost for a minute. And it was because I didn't understand some of the terminology that
Terminology.
came with it. And part of that was because I had forgotten some of what I'd learned at that point. And so when you move into a professional side of dance and you want to try to make it a career, the more advanced you get and the more auditions you begin to go to, if you're one of those people that you're trying to go into the audition side of things and get these parts, the choreographers, they expect you to know it, and they expect you to be able to just pop at the top of your head. They're going to go over that the choreography one time. They'll give it to you
Right.
one time, and they'll
Right.
be hot. They'll be throwing stuff out, pot bourrée, and double turn, and leap, and towards your tape, and stop. And you're like, okay, what? And they did all of that. They showed it to you, and they also verbalized it. And you're sitting there like, I think I caught it. I don't know what did he say. So having the terminology in writing and having to actually study it for me made a huge difference. Once we
Yes.
went through that time in the class where we had that, this is your whole list of terminology. You need to study it. You're going to have a test on how to spell the word, how to pronounce the word, and then also what the definition is. And we had to write the definition of the word. And it's like,
Yes.
I kind of thought, definition to what's a pot of beret? You know, what do you mean? What do you mean the definition to a pot of beret? Well, a pot of beret is backside front. That's how
Yes.
you, that's how most dance instructors will teach it. A pot of beret is backside front because you step
Mhm.
back, you step to the side, you step to the front. So that might be what was written down for what a pot of beret is, or a tour de te. Tour means turn. So you have tour de te, but you're like, well, what is a jete? Well, jete is a type of a jump. So you have a turn with a jump combined. So I mean, there's
Mhm.
things that you have written down, and when it's written
Right.
down, and then you have to study it, you have to understand it. It connects in your brain, and then
Right.
now that you have it in your head from a written standpoint, then you're like, oh, your mind begins to remember it faster, which means your body can now execute it faster. That was what really inspired me years later to write this book, was because when I started out with, as I said, in that class, I felt like I was lost. Then I had the opportunity to begin teaching these young ladies, and this was a group of beginners. They had never danced before. They just had the heart to dance, and they wanted to dance in a dance ministry. So from a
Mhm.
dance ministry side, my experience from watching other dance ministries was they did not dance. Please don't take offense if anyone is watching this. What I mean when I say that is there is a difference between um, moving the hands and the body, just
Mhm.
moving the hands in your body, and there that is a beautiful thing because I do that too. Liturgical dance, that is beautiful. But then you see other dance ministries that they merge technique with it.
Mhm.
That makes it a dance more than
Mm.
just liturgical, because now you're doing
You're
leaps, you're
moving.
doing double turns, you're doing pas de berets, you're doing all
Right.
those things, but then you're doing it in the church. And that was what these girls were supposed they wanted to do. They wanted to dance in the church. Well, me coming from a dance background, when I was asked to run the dance ministry, I was like, I can't just get out there and and just move my
Wave
hands,
your hands.
because
Right.
when I listen to music, I see movement.
Your whole
And
right.
yeah, I see my whole body moving. It's
Right.
always been that way for me. And so what I would do is when I started teaching them, and I had to come up with a program and a lesson
Mhm.
plan and all of that to work with them with, I was like, they need to know how to do the basics. If nothing
Mhm.
else, the basics. And so I wrote this book.
Yes.
I'm gonna hold it up for a second. This is the
There
title.
it
This is the book
is.
that I wrote, and it is just what it says: the Ballet and Jazz Dance Dictionary. It's a compilation of the general terminology and technique. And what I did was I took the information that I had from classes, and I mean, I also had a ballet book. We had a terminology book from college for ballet, and I had one for Kathleen Dunham's. She is a dynamic Caribbean dancer. I love her. I love her dance style. And if you're from the dance world, you might recognize Kathleen Dunham. But we had her
Mhm.
book, and we had to learn her terminology. Her terminology. We had to learn her dance style. And so I took everything that I had learned and the information that I saved, because I'm a saver. When I get
Yes.
information like that, I save it. I might need to
Yes.
say it again one day.
You
I don't
never
know.
know,
You
right?
know, and so I save all the kind of stuff, and I thought, oh, I'm so glad I did, because I was able
Mhm.
to take from the information I was given and create my own list of terminology. And the reason why I did that was because the terminology that I was given was very extensive,
Mm.
and it went beyond the basics. So I
You know,
wanted to write a book for young children, young
yes.
adults, the dancer who is beginning or in an intermediate level, the self-taught, and nowadays there are a lot of self-taught dancers thanks to the internet. And
Yes.
so I wanted to make sure that yes, you watched all these videos and someone has taught you, you follow someone teach you all these things, and they probably, and I know if it's a dance instructor, they gave you terminology as well. But
Yes.
now here is a written form of that terminology that they gave
I
you
love
that you
it.
can turn around and maybe even enhance what you've learned.
I love
Um,
it.
the
I
other
love
reason too,
it.
of course, thank you.
I love it.
I
Look,
also wanted to go ahead.
go ahead. I wanted to um just to say one thing that Lorraine, this is a awesome idea.
Thank you.
You have tapped in. Do you know everything that you've just said? And I go back to my dancing. I was in drill team,
Oh, see, yes.
marching band,
Oh, yeah. I
and
remember that
and you're
too.
absolutely right. You you hear certain words, and you know that you're supposed to do this action, a pas de bourrée with this word. I didn't do ballet, but I was a drill team person,
Hmm. And it's the
uh,
same thing.
and we danced,
Hmm.
and there was a lot of terminology that entering in. I had no idea. I was watching the other girls, and so then I would
Remember
just
that.
remember, oh, this word means that I'm supposed to do this. But you're
Hmm.
absolutely right. I remember we went to a camp in Santa Barbara, and it was a drill team camp. They had
Mm.
cheerleading camps, and those instructors were using all this terminology,
Hmm.
and we had no idea. You hear it, you don't know
Yeah.
how to spell it, you don't know what it looks like if you saw it.
Hmm.
And so
Yes.
this dictionary, it totally brings that together, because you're
Thank you.
absolutely right. The older you get into dance, as you progress,
Hmm.
your instructors expect you to know when they say, okay, position, fifth position, whatever
Exactly.
that is, you're
Hmm.
supposed to know that if you're an experienced dancer.
Hmm.
But there's a disconnect. You can be an experienced dancer and
Yes.
not know the terminology,
Absolutely.
right? And
Absolutely.
so this totally brings that to get together. I love this. Oh my
Thank you so
gosh.
much. Thank you
Wow.
so much.
This is
And I will
brilliant.
say, thank you. I really appreciate that because honestly, I really didn't know where this book was going to go. I just started my writing journey last year. However, I have been
Wow.
a writer for
Congratulations.
many years. Thank you.
Yes.
I wrote my first book in 2005, actually, which is the one I'm actually working on revamping.
Mm-hmm.
But it is
Okay.
because of my child. I raised a type 1 diabetic, and me and my husband together, our firstborn,
Yes.
son, is a type 1 diabetic, and I wrote a book about that. But
Mm-hmm.
then I threw it up on Lulu, having no idea what to do, no idea what I was doing. I just knew this is a self-publishing website. Oh, this is great. Threw it up there, got a print copy. It was like, nope, I don't like the way that looks. I have no idea what I'm doing, and no one bought it. So I, of course, got discouraged for one, and then also I was just like, I'm just going to pull this down. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing right now, and I moved on with life. And that was back in 2004. But then at the same time, it was something that was eating at me. I kept saying, I want to be a writer one day. I want to be a writer one day. That
Yes.
was my thing.
Yes.
And so, of course, last year I turned 50. And before I turned 50, basically beginning of 2022, I just thought, you know what? I have time. I have all these things written. I had devotionals written from when I was heavy in the church, which is, I've had stuff like that. I had a children's book written that was based off of my baby, my second son, and all his
Mm-hmm.
antics as a child. I wrote a book based on that. And I just need an illustrator for it. So that one is pretty much written, but I have no illustrators. And that book was written many years ago too. And I won't say I don't have any
Oh,
illustrators. Let me clarify. I don't have the funds personally. I don't have the finances to pay for an illustrator. I've seen brilliant illustrators. I just can't afford it right now. So it's
okay.
on the back burner. But at the same time, it was those reasons that I thought I need to really get out there and start seeing what I can do as a writer. So I joined Medium,
Yes.
started writing on Medium. This year I started the Substack. And I kind of found my place as a writer. I don't have a lot of followers, but I realized that for me, I had to tell myself that was not important. The followers was
No,
not
it's not.
important for that. Yes,
That
you
will
get paid a
come.
medium when you have followers and heavy readers, but
That's
at the same
okay.
time, I wanted to just really start getting myself out there. And then, of course,
Yes.
it was what can I put out now while I work on other things? And that was when my dance dictionary came back to me, and I thought, you know what? I remember how much that helped me to have that terminology. And I also
Yes.
remember that when I put a small piece of that together, this book here actually came from the portions of the terminology that I learned in college. It came from uh, that information. I took that information, I condensed it, and I pulled out the most basic terms for ballet and jazz, for the beginner, intermediate dancer, and I used that information to teach the girls that I was working with. And we
Yes.
taught the basics: first position, second,
Wow.
third, fourth position in ballet.
Mhm.
There is a
Mhm.
difference between first position turned out and jazz, which is ballet, and then jazz first position. A lot of people, if you're not a dancer, or even if you are, you weren't really explaining the difference, because of, like I said, a lot of people are self-taught. You don't know that first position parallel, which is your feet front, is different from
Right.
first position turned out, and your feet are
Right.
out. This is
Right.
ballet, this is jazz. And so there's
Right.
a lot going on that, a lot of dancers just move through stuff and they don't know. And so I wanted my young ladies to be aware and informed of what they were doing. So I gave them the same little basic test that I was given in college. I condensed it and I was like, okay, here's a few words. I want you guys to learn these words and then come back. We're going to go through it. So what is
I
it? What is
love it.
the, first position? And I walked them through all of those things. We had all of our different conditioning that we did, but that book for them, it helped a lot, because after a few months, not only did I see a physical difference in their ability, and how well they advanced from beginning and not even knowing what first position was, to being able to be in class. And I would say, okay, we're going to start in first position, and they do it. Where
Wow.
3 months ago, we're going to start in first position, they were like, what? Put your feet together, put your heels together, turn your feet out. That's first position. Oh, okay. And then 2-3 months later, let's start in first position, and boom, they're there. Show me a plie, boom, they do it. And so part of that was not just me teaching them physically, but because I sent them home with that paperwork. And I was like, I want you
Yes.
guys to learn. I want you
They're
to understand
studying.
it. Yes. And then sometimes they would come back and they would say, well, look, I learned how to do this. And I'd be like, oh, wait, how do you, well, I was reading the book and I was reading the information, and that's where it came from. So there were times
That's
when they just kind of
beautiful.
understood. But watching that just really made me see that, wow, you know what, this is something that can help others, because I knew it helped me. And
Yes,
so
it can.
that's where that came from. And honestly, I didn't think a lot of it. I really just thought, okay, I'm going to write this, I'm going to put it out, I'll just self-publish it, of course. And I love lulu.com. That's my home. I don't know, I just feel like it's very easy to use, and so that was the first place I went back to. And so the book is available through lulu.com on my page, and but it's easier to find through my website, which is in the banner. If you go to the
Mhm.
banner, you click the purchase button, it'll take you to the many different platforms that sell the e-version of the book. And then there's also a a button that you can click to get the spiral bound. And to me, the spiral bound, if you are definitely either a dance instructor and you would like to um,
Beautiful.
if you don't want to take the time as a dance instructor, let me say this, because that is the difference. A dance instructor, your mind is moving through movement all day long. You are constantly, if you're a creative dance instructor, you're constantly teaching. In your head.
Yes.
I remember that. Especially when I was doing dance ministry, I'd hear music, and I felt like God was showing me movement. And there's times when I would
Yes.
say, Lord, I need something for this. And I would listen to the song over and over again, and I'd see movement in my head. And I'd have to
Yes.
write it down or go home, record it real quick, and go back and teach
Put
that
it
to the
together.
young ladies and
Yes.
choreograph it. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, that is huge. But also,
Yeah.
because of that, you don't either have or want to take the time to write down everything that you want your students to learn. So this
Right.
book will save you that time right here.
Wow.
You can
That's
take this book,
amazing.
and in it you will see that it is actually written as a dictionary. That is the one thing I wanted to be sure. Let me get to a couple pages. It's written as a dictionary, so that you, as a dance instructor, if you would like to purchase these books for your students, this takes some of the work out of you having to put together your own compilation of um, terminology. You
Wow.
have this fundamental feet position for
Yes.
jazz. Let me try to get in the video. Sorry. Um, I give you fundamental arm positions. And yes, it is in written form. There's no diagrams here. I didn't do diagrams. I felt like I just wanted to give you the
The
definitions
information.
and keep
Mhm.
moving. Yes, the information. But something like this. These are warm ups that most jazz classes take. Most jazz classes
Mm.
do. So this is
Nice.
a book for you just to take. You can flip through it and give this to your students and let
Yes.
them just go ahead and look at this themselves. This way, you as a dance instructor, dance studio owner, you don't have to worry about the terminology from a written standpoint because it's already written for you. And then of course you can take this and
Yeah.
add to it. There is a couple of the spiral bound version has a couple of blank pages in the back, so you can take notes if you need to. The students can take notes, but this alleviates the teacher from having
Yes.
to say, I would
Having to
love for
do
you to go back
both.
and learn this and that type of thing, where now you can just say, you know what, here's this book. Go home and study it, read it at your own pace. You know what I mean? And then that way you have all the information you need. You don't have to worry about it putting it together yourself. But I feel like it will make dancers
Huge
stronger
difference.
to
Oh,
have that. I
yes.
I personally remember seeing my girlfriend that I was in class with. She was about 30.
Mhm.
And she and I both felt like we were extremely too old for this class, but we both had to go through that same process of learning the terminology. And I will say, even she after that, she even improved a lot. And she was just like, wow, this is so
Yes.
much better. We just felt better in class. We felt more comfortable.
Well,
And I do
yeah.
believe that this would help all students do that. And like I said, for the self-taught dancer, and you just
Yes.
want to learn more, you can. I think this will definitely be something that will benefit you to give you that extra confidence that you need as a
Yes.
dancer. And that's what is missing when you don't have the confidence, because you look around the room and you feel like you are the smallest one in the classroom, because you feel like you don't know what you're doing.
Or the less
This
experienced one.
There
The
you go,
less
right.
experience.
Yes, this book will give you
This
that.
provides a structure. I love that.
Thank you.
And like as you said, not to cut you off, but
Oh
as you
no, thank you.
said, um, that information, knowledge is power. And
Yes.
so anytime you infuse information in an art, and this is something these whoever reads this, children, instructors, they're going to
Hmm.
remember this and keep this book forever, because if you're a dancer, you can always go back to
Yes.
certain words that you hear.
Hmm.
I'm even thinking about, like I said, when I was dancing, I had no idea what these words meant. I just
Right.
associated with a move.
Hmm.
But, to capture it in a dictionary form, it's ideal because
Yes.
it adds structure to
Hmm.
that dancer so that you're educated in your art,
Hmm.
and then
Yes.
you can go ahead when you're dancing, you know exactly what you're doing. You can identify these
Hmm.
moves. I love this, and this is,
Thank you.
I think, so much needed in the world of dance as it relates
Hmm.
to children seeking out a dance, not so much a dance career. Most kids get into
Right.
dance,
Because it's fun.
as a pastime, and they want to
Exactly.
do it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And this helps with that, because
Hmm.
it's one thing to be a ballerina and doing all of your moves, but you have no idea, you couldn't name any of the other moves other than the basic,
Right.
and I
Right.
just love that educational aspect of this book. This
Hmm.
is brilliant,
Thank you.
absolutely brilliant.
I
And
appreciate that so much.
so I want for our listening audience, because
Hmm.
we are on podcasts, Amazon Music,
Okay.
we're on Apple Podcast, and probably about 10 other podcast channels. So go ahead and give our listening audience your website information
Okay.
and how they can purchase your book.
Sounds good. Um, The website is Lilt Expressions. That is the name of my well, not my publishing company. It's a creative arts company that I use to host all of my products, because I also paint. I'm a painter, an artist.
Oh,
Is very
okay.
I say amateur, and my girlfriend was like, "You're not an amateur." So I'm an artist. But yes, on the website you will see everything that I do, and it
Nice.
is LYLT expressions, the word expressions with an S, EXPRESSIONS.com. And I have to
Yes.
say, Lilt expressions is a twofold. It is a literary term for speaking in a happy, joyful way, gleeful. Um, but it also means love you like that. And I do need to put that out there.
Mm,
My full name is Lorraine Jackson. I go by Lorraine J just because it's easier. However, um, that is who I am. As you can see, I'm a wife and mother, and that always comes first. But
yes.
Lilt expressions, LYLT, means love you like that. And that came from my father. Um, he passed away in 2014. And I only say this because me and my sisters have always, we had to find a way to keep him in our hearts aside from just loving him internally. And one of his
Yes.
things he would always say, and is one of them things you kind of didn't realize, that he said it to everyone, not just you, because he loved everyone. You know what I mean? But one day
Yes.
we were
I
having a
love that.
conversation and we were like just talking about the things that he would say. And we
Mhm.
all kind of said the same thing all the time. Whenever he would hang up the phone, he'd say, "Love you like that." And we were like, "Yeah, he sure does all the time. He used to say that to you too." And then my cousin would say, "Oh yeah, whenever I leave the house, he said, 'Love you like that.'" So that was my father's favorite phrase. That was what he would tell
Wow. I
everyone: "Love
love
you like
that.
that." And so that is
Mm,
where little expressions comes from. It's twofold because I love him like that, but I love what I do like that too. And so
yes.
therefore it resonated with me. And that is where that's what that's about. And I had to say that only because I feel like some people, I look at that word and they're probably like, "What is lilt? What does it mean? LYLT?" And it really is an acronym for those words. Love you like that.
Love you
But
like that.
also, yes, but the literary term is lilt, and it's spelled LILT. So I just changed it up a little bit for that reason. But yes, that's where that comes from. And on there you will find the as I said before, the Amazon, the button for the Amazon link. But it should
Mhm.
take you. It'll probably take you. Not probably. It will take you to um, my link tree that will give you a list of all the places that you can find the ebook version. And then
Yes.
there's also one where you can purchase the spiral version from lulu.com. So thank you again for having me.
Lulu.com.
And I really hope that this book helps someone. And I feel like
Yes,
it
it
will. But
will.
I really hope that it is something that people are able to take with them and it lasts a long time. I know for me, Frank Hatchett and what he instilled in me lasted a long. It lasted my whole life. I had to go out and buy his book for his
Wow.
jazz technique book because of that. And I wanted to say real quick too that if from my experience and from the people that I've talked to over the years,
Mhm.
there are a lot of books out there for dance terminology, but most of them you're only gonna even know about them or see them if you are in a college course, and that is a required book. And if now, of
Oh.
course, you can go on Amazon and find a lot of those same books and purchase them yourselves. But that was
Mhm.
again why I did write the my version of it because, as Paulette said, a lot of times it's not something that you're going to get from a dance studio. If you're not
Right.
in some type of college program or program dance certification program or something like that where it's required for you to learn this particular style of something, you're not necessarily going to get a book or a video or a book really with written terminology about what you're doing.
Right.
You go into a dance
Right.
class with your jazz shoes on ready
You're
to move,
just dancing,
you know.
that's it.
So
You're
and I
in
kind of felt
there,
like that's
you
what I was
work
doing.
out
Mm-hmm.
and you warm up and you dance and you leave.
Yes,
It's so fast.
it is.
And for the instructor, I've watched. I usually go to my granddaughter's practices,
Mm,
and I watch the instructor back to back. She's having
yes,
back to back
classes.
classes,
Mm-hmm.
and I would feel for her, like, she's
I
doing
remember those days.
everything. She's doing everything,
Yep.
I hear her talking to the girls. Okay, uh, stand in this position, or she's going through their routine, and she's
Mm-hmm.
using terminology, and some of them, they don't know it, and they're
Yeah.
looking at other girls. Oh yeah, it's
Yes.
this.
Mm-hmm.
That's where this book comes in,
Thank you.
because that that actually is even an addition to
Mm-hmm.
the classes, is to
Mm-hmm.
go over these um, terms, to and explain what they mean, demonstrate what they mean, put them
Yes.
together.
Yes.
And that just builds the confidence of the dancer, in my opinion. You know, if you
Definitely
know what you're
confidence.
doing, you understand the language
Mhm.
that your instructor is saying to you, then
Mhm.
you can only implement, you have that confidence because you know what to do. And
Right.
so, wow, Lorraine, it was so nice to have you on the show
Thank
today.
you. Thank you for having me. I really
Your book
appreciate
is
it. I
phenomenal.
enjoyed myself. Thank you.
It is phenomenal. Isn't it something how you can have an idea about something and
Mhm.
it's a good idea, but you're not sure if it's
Yes.
going to be received? I
Exactly.
can
That's how I felt.
guarantee you this you have tapped into an arena that is so, this book is needed.
Mm.
I'm sure marketing your book properly, you'll sell millions of copies all over the world
Mm.
because this is the missing link in dance, honestly.
I appreciate that.
Honestly.
Thank you so much.
So it's been my pleasure to interview you, to get to know you, and to hear your phenomenal work. And I can't wait until your next project comes out. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you.
we are going to sign off today. My author, Lorraine J., and her book, Ballet and Jazz Dance Dictionary.
Yes.
You can pick this book up on Amazon and her website,
Wow.
lyltexpressions.com. And that's Love You Like That.
Thank you.
Expressions.com. I love that. I'll probably start saying it too because,
Please do go right ahead.
let's
Pass
keep
it
that
on.
legacy going. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Let's talk about it. This is the Authors Lounge segment, and we are going to sign off. And you can pick up Lorraine's book on Amazon and her website. So, you guys have a great rest of your day. And Lorraine, thank you again for being my guest.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Special thanks to our guest, Lorraine J. Please subscribe and share.